Would you name all your servants A lady?
I can't be bothered to learn all of your names. I'll just call you Alexa.
You know what video game I think Steve Jobs, when he was 17, was working? And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Breakout.
I think so, because he worked for Atari, yeah.
My name is Bryan Smith, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Computer Vision Lab here at Columbia. And I'm the creator and the developer of the racing auditory display, the RAD. And what it is a way of making it possible for people who are blind to play racing games.
If you do a Google search for Blind Drift Challenge, it'll pull up my episode. Nash was on the episode as well.
Aww.
And yeah, it was so funny because you see Nash in the car and then he's like, let me out. He was like, wait a minute, that guy's driving?
Hans Weiberg, founder of Be My Eyes, and community developer Alexander Jensen. Thanks for taking the time and being here for our listeners.
Great. So, thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of news about Be My Eyes. And remember to smile.
Remember to smile. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to yet another episode of That Blind Tech Show. It feels like it's been a while because honestly, we recorded the last one a while ago. But I'm here with the usual partners in crime. Allison, how are you doing today?
I am doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself there, Jeff? How are you doing this day?
I'm doing just great, Brian. How are you doing?
I think I've established that I'm doing fantastic.
Fantastic.
And we're off and running. But, you know, in England, they could be doing fantastic because we're going to jump right into the news. You know, I'm going to date myself here because I remember when Public Enemy was singing that 911 is a joke, y'all. And nowadays, in England, in the future, you're not even going to have to call 911 because this first story, they want people to report crimes to their A-lady, Allison.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty out there. I know there have been some stories in the U.S. where she's kind of called the police based on things she's heard. Or so, you know, I figured that would eventually be the direction we'd move in.
Yeah, but I just have this giant fear that I'm going to be being attacked and the A-lady's going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
I got that, yeah. That is a concern.
Even worse, I'm sorry, I've lost connectivity to Wi-Fi.
Yes, it doesn't look like you're connected to the internet. Meanwhile, you're getting choked out on the floor like...
This is what I found on the web.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff, we know you know those smart criminals. So wouldn't a smart criminal first, like, cut the Wi-Fi or the internet before they come into the house?
Or push the mute button on the A-lady? Yeah.
Exactly. Or Jeff would be in trouble because he would use, okay, Google, and it only works with the A-lady in England.
Or I'd try to do it on my HomePod and it just wouldn't work.
Well, it's about time we put Big Brother to use for ourselves.
That's right.
It is. I mean, with all this technology, we're getting closer and closer to Demolition Man being a reality. Yeah, this is pretty cool because right now I know in the United States this is not connected to 911 at all, so you can't call 911 at all.
But it does seem like a common thing because when you have so many millions of these devices around, and we all know, like if you have the watch or your phone, that you get those Amber Alerts going out. This would be a good way to notify you that something's happening in your area.
I would agree.
You, like, say, nuclear bombs coming towards Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. It would be a great way to spread more fear and everything.
That's what we need.
Yeah, more fear. I definitely think this is the right direction, though. I just question how many people will do it. Fortunately, in my life, I did have to call 911 once because I actually thought I was having a heart attack and I got the best news possible. It was allergies.
Oh, God.
I never had allergies and I moved to a new area where the pollen really affected me. And yeah, so it was very frightening, but that was the only time in my life I've called 911. How about you, Jeff? You ever have to call 911?
My daughter, when she was about 7 or 8, she fooled me. Will you call this number? I said, sure. She goes, 9, and I hit the 9. And then she goes, 1. And then she goes, oh, wait, 1. And so all of a sudden I got a call back from the police. And she was laughing.
Oh, no. That's hysterical.
Your daughter's one of those people, and now she's on a list somewhere.
Well, she got me.
More importantly, does 411 even exist anymore?
I don't know, actually.
Think about about all those operators that lost their jobs? I mean,
I know. Or who are just sitting there with twiddling their thumbs waiting for someone to call. Someone please call. I bet they get a lot of reading done at work.
I'm so old. I remember when you used to be able to call 0 and get an operator.
Yep, operator. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When my mom was a kid, though, like they had like letters in their phone numbers and stuff. Have you ever seen like an old movie where they're like,
call A694B or something?
Phone numbers did not make sense back then. It was like,
no, they did not. Or like, call Simmons Lane A6342. Simmons Lane A6342. Yeah. Yeah.
That operator had to be the town gossiper, but
oh yeah, they would know everything. Yeah.
I feel like we're talking about Mayberry or something.
Green Acres.
I know, right?
Green Acres, but do you guys want to whistle the theme song? But no, more excitingly than this one town in England that's going to be using the A-Lady for 911, something that I've been wanting to come to the A-Lady for a very long time, and I am very excited that it's working, is follow-up questions. I know, Jeff, you and I have played around with this a little. How are you liking being able to ask your A-Lady follow-up questions?
I really liked it at first. It's something that I always wanted. However, after you ask a particular question, it's still hanging out. So if you start talking to someone else, I don't understand, or so if you follow up with stop or thank you, which is nice, then it'll quit.
And for those people that really, were paranoid that the A-Lady was always listening, this adds 5 seconds on to the always listening.
Now she really is always listening.
She is. And have you gotten to play around with this yet, Allison?
I have not. I have to go into settings and turn it on, but I'm excited because there have been times where I have not said her name and figured follow-up mode was just kind of a thing, and then it wasn't, and I was mad. So this will decrease the stress in my life.
Yeah, but don't be like me, because every time I ask a follow-up question, I yell out, follow-up, because I get excited that I can do it and everything.
Well, I'm sure that doesn't confuse her or anything.
His neighbors are confused.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey. Your studio is now operational.
All right, the first thing you want to do to set this up is open up your Amazon Alexa app. Wah, wah, wah. Open Amazon Alexa.
Amazon Alexa. Menu. Button.
Single finger, double tap. This will open up a menu, and then we'll swipe down to settings. So left to right.
Settings.
Single finger, double tap.
Devices. Heading level 4. Main. Landmark.
So depending on how many devices you have, you will have to do this for each individual device. And one criteria that they require is that you are set up for English US voice. So I would check that out first.
Language. Link. English. United States. Link.
If your language setting is not set for English US, then you can go in here and change that. Since mine is set for English US, let's swipe back. Single finger from right to left.
Follow-up mode. Ask Alexa follow-up questions without repeating the wake word.
With the latest update, this setting is not checked. You will have to swipe over and double tap it to ensure that you are activating the follow-up mode.
Learn more. Link. Period. Checkbox. Checked. Link.
Wah, wah, wah. What time is it?
The time is 12:36 p.m.
What day is it?
Today is Tuesday, March 13th.
What color is a banana?
A banana's color is yellow.
Where is the moon?
The moon is in orbit around the Earth at an average distance of 238,900 miles, 384,400 kilometers.
Thank you.
No worries.
The first article that I read about this didn't tell us that you actually have to go into settings and enable it, so we kept asking the A-Lady to enable follow-up, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I tried that too. It didn't work. It's like, I don't know that skill.
And you have to do it for each particular device.
Oh, bummer. Okay, yeah.
So if you have 35 devices, get ready to spend some time.
Awesome.
You see, that's what would really stink if you live in like a 500-room mansion now, because then you got to get an A-Lady for every room. And rich people just have a lot of problems.
Bryan, servants.
That's true. That pay the butler to...
Servants. Yes, good point. Would you name all your servants A-Lady?
I can't be bothered to learn all of your names. I'll just call you Alexa.
Instead of Gerard, my butler would be named OK Google.
I'm just waiting for somebody to come out with a Jeeves speaker. Like, that would be so awesome. Jeeves, what ho?
I miss Ask Jeeves. I don't know who he was, but back when Lycos was running the search engine.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I remember Ask Jeeves.
What was the very first video game you ever played?
I played Mortal Kombat with my cousin Jonathan. I was about 6 years old, and I was playing on it was one of the older Nintendo gaming systems, and I beat the crap out of him. He showed me all the different buttons, and just kind of by accident, I killed him, and it was fun.
Not in real life, right?
Well, I'll never tell. But
Can we get an APB out on Allison's cousin, Jeff?
Say it to the A lady.
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing to ask the A lady is, where's a good place to bury a body? And it now says, you should contact the police.
My first game that I bought, and I actually went and purchased it for $19. It was called Pong.
Oh.
And you hooked it up to any TV. You just had to get a screwdriver and hook it up to the antenna.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Wasn't that one of the first video games ever invented, Pong?
Yeah, it was right after the dinosaurs left. I think they left it behind. So they were advancing.
You know what video game I think Steve Jobs, when he was 17, was working? And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Breakout.
I think so, because he worked for Atari, yeah.
I think the first video game I ever played was the sports package on the old Atari, which had to be at the time, it was the most amazing thing ever. But then you realize no matter what sport you were playing, when you think back about it, it was just a series of beeps. It's like soccer, beep, 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 baseball, it was like just a different sense of beeps. But after that, the next video game I remember playing, which I guess wouldn't be the first video game I ever played, but Pac-Man was, I remember when Pac-Man came out to the Atari, it was like the biggest thing ever. And we went to our friend's house who had gotten Pac-Man, and it was impossible to get. They somehow got a copy of it, and my dad played it and got a 1, which I don't know how that's possible to get a 1 on Pac-Man, but ever since that day, he hated video games. He got a 1. I mean, all you had to do was move the joystick to the left or right, and you would get more than a 1. But it's just kind of an interesting topic, to think back about those. Obviously, we all had sight at those times. Now, Allison, did you have sight when you were playing Mortal Kombat then?
Nope, I've been total since I was a couple of days old. So, no, he showed me this is the punch, this is the kick, and I just wailed on him.
Did you say when you were done, you just got beat by a blind person?
I think I did make some sort of comment in my little 6-year-old way.
Obviously, Marty Schultz has done a great job with the blindfold games. I think he's over 80 now. And, it's funny because the one game that I've never played of his was his original racing game. But there's a new racing game that Jeff was telling me about called RAD, simulating driving for the visually impaired. Jeff, why don't you tell us a little about this?
Well, it's not something that's been released. Bryan Smith, who is a PhD candidate at Columbia Design, has come up with RAD, and that stands for Racing Auditory Display. And this is designed to hook up to more than just one game. What it does basically is gives a person an auditory navigation device using audio cues to the curves and straightaways, thus staying on the road and getting a better score.
My name is Bryan Smith, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Computer Vision Lab here at Columbia. And I'm the creator and the developer of the Racing Auditory Display, the RAD. And what it is a way of making it possible for people who are blind to play racing games and have the same sort of experience playing those games as sighted players can. To be able to do things like cut corners, anticipate upcoming turns, remember the track layout, and all of the things that sighted players are used to doing in racing games.
It was interesting to try the RAD because of the new experience that it gave to me as a visually impaired person in relation to playing racing games.
The RAD is a user interface that can be added to any racing game. It's just a means of, given a racing game, a developer can plug in the RAD, and then that will output sound to a player's headphones to give them information about the racetrack.
This feeling of, I guess you can say the feeling of adventure that it gave, the sense of control that it gave me as a player, was totally different than what you would usually get from other audio racing games that were specifically designed for the visually impaired community.
So right now, if you look at the types of video games that are available to people who are blind, it's a pretty sparse field. They're very simplified versions of what sighted people would play. They either cut out a lot of the game mechanics and higher level strategies that you might expect. So in racing games, for example, there are no concepts of cutting corners. Or they overload the player with too much information. And so here our goal was to give people who are blind an authentic experience so that they could play racing games the same way that sighted players would experience racing games, with all of the information that they would normally have to decide how to race themselves without overloading them with information. We've actually found that the RAD helps people who are blind race as well as casual sighted players can. We compared lap times from sighted people and blind participants, and they were comparable. Now, if you have a really good sighted player, they can do better because they can hug corners just even more precisely than what the RAD would allow you to do. But the fact that like a regular 3D racing game can be playable by someone who's blind at a level that's comparable to sighted players is a completely new thing.
I contacted John Biggs, the writer from TechCrunch, to give us permission to use this clip, and you can find links to his article in the show notes. That's on TechCrunch.
In development.
It's on a PlayStation 4, though. Isn't he running it on a PlayStation 4? So, in theory, it could be made available en masse.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But he's making it so it could be applied to other games. And
yeah.
Good for him. It's nice to see that people are working on something like that. They have the know-how, the knowledge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, something that I noticed, and we've never talked about here, EA Sports is actually doing some tremendous work with trying to make their games available to the visually impaired. And I know your husband, Jeremy, because I reached out to you, I loved when I could see you. I wasted hours upon hours playing Madden football, and I never thought in a million years that's something I'd get to enjoy as a blind person. They've made part of the game, playing the game accessible, where I guess the remote control vibrates and everything. And you were saying that Jeremy, last time I spoke to you, he was 11-0 on the game.
He was 11-0. I think he still is. He hasn't played recently, but you can do a lot of the gameplay now just by reading the guide and using the accessible mode. And then for some of it, he does find that it's helpful to have one of our Windows 10 PCs with the Xbox app to stream so that he can OCR the screen. And that's allowed him to do things like make his franchise and stuff. So he's gotten pretty advanced with it.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I don't own any kind of gaming system, but I'm hoping that they make further strides, because I know I actually have a college buddy that works at EA that I reached out to about this. So I'm hoping by next football season, maybe they've made further strides, because I don't know if I have the time and patience to OCR all the menus and everything. And there's no reason. That's seems like the most simple part, to make the menus accessible.
Yeah, I'm hoping eventually that there will be some sort of hook that lets developers use the text-to-speech, the narrator that's built into every Xbox to read the actual game screens. That would be so cool.
It's amazing that these gaming companies are even getting into the accessibility forefront and everything. Who knows? This time next year, I might be saying, no, I can't podcast today. I'm playing Madden for 8 hours.
You'll abandon us for the Xbox.
Yeah, so, but getting back to RAD, I don't know if I ever told you, Mike, when Jeff told me about RAD and this driving simulation, I don't know if I ever told either about, I've had 7 different 15 minutes of fame,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them was I was on the racing show Top Gear.
Oh, wow.
And my good friend was the host of not the British version that everybody loves, but the American version that didn't last as long. But hey, they did get me in a Nissan sports car, and you could, if you do a Google search for Blind Drift Challenge, it'll pull up my episode. Nash was on the episode as well.
Aww.
And it was so funny because you see Nash in the car, and then he's like, let me out. He was like, wait a minute, that guy's driving? So Nash was never in the car when I drove. It was a lot of fun, and I ended up doing what's known as a drifting challenge against the two hosts.
Oh, harder left. Hard left. Left. Okay, clutch. You were on the clutch, right?
No, I wasn't on the clutch. I was on the brake.
Dump the clutch. Push it to the floor. Full throttle. Hold it.
That's Bryan driving a 6-speed. Are you kidding me?
Okay, that's enough.
What did we hit?
Nothing. We're fine.
He's so much better than you are. It's ridiculous.
Shut up. He's better than you, too.
Oh, the blind can drift.
We needed to start the competition before Bryan got any better.
When I did it, it was the scariest thing I ever did. But at the end of the day, when I was still alive, it was like, wow, that was awesome.
That is really cool.
So, unfortunately, nowadays, if I wanted to drive, I'd probably have to use something like Be My Eyes. Oh, what a segue.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys, Allison, have you ever used Be My Eyes?
I have not. I've not used any of these assistants, Be My Eyes, Ira. There's another one out there, Be Specular or something. I've always just kind of either been lucky enough to have a friend that can come over when I needed something, or just kind of figured something else out. But
you got a friend?
I have a friend, yes.
Well, for those of us in the visual impaired community without any friends, we're family that don't know we're blind. No. Jeff, have you used Be My Eyes?
Yes, I have. I use it on my current machine because the new one that I have now has a screen up on top and I can't, I don't know where the stuff is. So within a minute, call them up, boom, bang. I'm pouring a 6-ounce for hot chocolate instead of like a 12-ounce or 10-ounce for coffee.
And now I'm getting Nutrisystem delivered to me, which for those of you out there, it is a great diet. Unfortunately, their app is completely not totally accessible, so maybe we'll talk to them about that.
Yeah. I
get, this big box of food delivered to me, and I've been using Be My Eyes to, tell me if it's a breakfast, a lunch, or dinner. And then when I go to eat the food, I actually use either Seeing AI or a KNFB to tell what it is, But it's been great. The problem is, I feel guilty because I never know how long I should stay on the call since it's free. So after 5 or 6 minutes, I'm like, okay, thank you very much. And then I call right back to get another helper.
Yeah, we'll call him on Be My Eyes and ask him.
Huh. Hans is always up for a good conversation. What is it? 7 hours difference in time? Such a great pleasure to have both of you in the studio. Hans Weiberg, founder of Be My Eyes, and community developer Alexander Jensen. Thanks for taking the time and being here for our listeners.
Great. So thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there's been a lot of news about Be My Eyes, and that's an app for the iOS and Android that you can get for your smartphone. Can you explain what the app is?
It's a pretty simple app and basically makes a live video connection between a blind or low vision person and a sighted volunteer so that you can always get visual assistance no matter where you are and almost no matter what language you speak. So in that sense, we can provide help 24/7 in basically any language.
And you have plenty of volunteers all around the world.
Yes, this is completely amazing. We have more than 900,000 volunteers across the globe. We have 64,000 blind people signed up. So it has grown quite a bit in those 3 years we have been online.
That's impressive. Can you tell us about the relationships that you're starting to do with companies right now?
Well, I think Alex should be the one telling about that.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So about 3 weeks ago on the 21st of February, we launched a new feature called Specialized Help. So now the app, from a blind person's perspective, has two buttons. One that says Call First Available Helper, that will put you in contact with a volunteer, and then the Specialized Help button. When you go into the Specialized Help button, you will have a list of companies instead of volunteer. And we just launched with Microsoft. So if you need any technical support from Microsoft, you can go in and select Microsoft and make a call directly to their disability answer desk, who will then receive a live video call like a normal Be My Eyes call. So wherever you point your camera at the screen, for example, they can help you set up the computer or guide you through. So we are really excited about bringing companies onto the platform now.
Oh, that is really something, because that's usually when you have a problem, you can't read the screen. So having someone directly from the help desk, that'll be awesome.
Exactly, and that's exactly the reason why we decided to go down this path as well. We will also have a bunch of other companies in the coming months. We'll have everything from banks to transportation companies and many more. We already got, I think, almost 600 recommendations on companies that our blind and low vision users have suggested that we include on the app. So the list is long, and we'll do whatever we can to get as many companies on the platform as possible.
Well, that's great that you have that relationship with your users.
Some of the companies will, of course, only be available in certain countries, but Microsoft will hopefully be available in all the countries where Microsoft is relevant. But it is up to the company to decide where and when and how they will be available. We hope to expand the list quite a bit.
That's great. I see also that you have some people who are using the app are sharing experiences. Is that accessible through the app?
Yeah, that's the very newest feature called Community Stories. And we are very lucky that we get so many people sharing their stories, both volunteers and blind users. And we thought that to bring them alive, so there's a new little tab in the app called Stories. And if you go into that, you can hear stories from both blind and vision impaired users about how they use it and what they've been using for, like a lot of really inspiring stuff. And also some stories from the volunteers who tell a little bit about how it makes them feel to help. Yeah, and we'll be launching new stories on a weekly and bi-weekly basis from now on. So there's a lot of interesting new stuff coming into the app.
Well, that's really great because, sharing those stories and what it does, it's interesting to find out how a sighted person, how they benefit from it. So I'll be looking forward to reading those.
Sometimes I joke about that I'm in real doubt who am I helping the most, because some of the volunteers are really excited about just being able to do what seems to be a small thing, but the feeling that you have when you're being able to help someone who asks for it is a great feeling, and that's what we also want to share. Basically so that the blind person don't hesitate to use it, because the volunteers are eager to help. It's important to bring this understanding to everyone.
Yeah, I think it's just great because I picked it up. I did a little demo of me using the Keurig machine, and within a minute, I was done using it and making my beverage in 1 minute. Helped me out. We said thank you, and that was it. Mission accomplished. So
I can tell you, we do a lot of coffee, because coffee machines these days, they are so complicated. So you need a master degree to make a cup of coffee, and it is completely inaccessible. But with the use of Be My Eye, you can navigate basically any coffee machine these days.
Yeah, the calls, they really vary from like stuff like that to like so many different things, and also the length of the call is also from, you mentioned your calls was maybe less than a minute, but some also like use 10 minutes together, like trying to figure out a spice rack or a record collection. So the calls really differ a lot in both in what actually is being done and also the length of it.
That was a question that someone had asked me, how long can the calls be? And I think it would just be a courteous thing that you be most efficient as you can.
Yes. And also, if you know that this is something that's going to take a while, it is polite to kind of ask the volunteer, do you have like half an hour or something like that? And how much juice do you have on your phone? Because that might also limit the length of the call. But otherwise, we haven't had people complaining about the volunteers didn't want to help a long time. And I can see on the call list that there are some calls that are close to an hour. But that's mainly if it is some computer issue where you have to reboot the computer and maybe do it more than once and so on. That can take quite a while. Generally, the volunteers are super patient about the length of the call, but most of the calls are less than 2 minutes.
You have a bigger task, then you have to remember we have, I think, what is it now, 930,000 volunteers.
Yeah.
So you can always call another one if you want to. Yeah, there's no limit to how many times you can call a day. So you can just knock yourself out and call another one if the first one don't have time. And now you can actually call 24/7 because we match based on language and on time zone. So if you're in the US, for example, and you need help in the middle of the night, then we'll just call someone in Australia.
Will you be at CSUN, Jeff?
No, I will not be at CSUN this year, but I wish I was.
Well, then we have to meet some other time and have the beer that we've been talking about. So
there you go. Well, thank you guys very much for taking the time out of your day and coming on to Blind Abilities. And we're going to get this posted up so people give it a shot. Like you said, if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. Well, thank you, Hans.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
And if you want to check out the entire podcast with the Be My Eyes team, check out Blind Abilities on the web, www.blindabilities.com, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities.
That is awesome.
For those of you out there that know Jeff and knows that he does not ask the hard-hitting questions, we do not have 100% confirmation whether Hans was named for Han Solo. So we have not been able to confirm nor deny that rumor that's out there and everything. So
or Christian Anderson.
You know, a lot of people have been using Be My Eyes to actually help them get around a multitude of navigation apps, and Microsoft has now gotten into the game on iOS, releasing yet another great app for the visually impaired, Microsoft Soundscape. It's new. It just came out just within the last few weeks. Allison, have you gotten to test this out at all?
I've not tested it. I've watched the video. I need some headphones that I can safely travel with. I need to get another pair of Aftershocks or something like that. But my problem is now I know my neighborhood. I've been here long enough. I know where I'm going. I know what's around. So I need to take it when I need to use it when I'm somewhere where I'm in less familiar surroundings.
Mm-hmm. Maybe since you're in a safe area, it's a good place to test it before you do try it when you go to a convention or something like that.
That's true. I never thought of that.
I did a demo of it, and you can do it from your house and just turn around. And you can hear the stereo go from left to right, depending on which side. It picked out my bus stop. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, whoa. And it picked out 2 of them because one's across the street, but it came out my right ear, my left ear, depending if I was facing north or south. Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I tested it at first with my AirPods, and I'm sorry, some people say, oh, well, you could hear without. I don't feel comfortable crossing streets, with both AirPods in, but I do have a pair of those bone conduction headphones. If I ever remember to take them with me, I would definitely test this out. I mean, that was the only drawback with this app is, you have to have both earbuds in, but it's really cool, the sounds and everything, that the left to right, the distance, you could tell when it's further away. The one problem, I typed in Citibank because I was going to do a walk to my bank, and it couldn't find my Citibank or any Citibank as a point of interest. So that's something I think they need some work on the POIs, but this is a 1.0, and I really do have to commend Microsoft. I mean, they just continue to impress their own accessibility with narrator. They've released more great accessible programs for iOS than Apple has.
They have really become the innovators. Apple could learn a thing or two from them and take a couple of pages from their book, because I think that Microsoft in the future is going to be the company to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're teaming up with companies, because I think they teamed up with the UK Guide Dogs and the San Francisco Lighthouse for the blind and visually impaired.
There's that mafia again, sticking their toe in everything. What for navigation do you guys use, if anything, on the iPhone? Do you use Blind Square GPS, which I still consider the gold standard? That's on the first page of my apps. Are you using, when you're in areas you're not familiar with, any kind of navigation apps on the iPhone?
I just use them mainly Blind Square and sometimes Nearby Explorer to find out what's around. I don't really use it for actively navigating. I just...
So you don't walk as the crow flies?
No.
Well, when I was in Vegas for the Business Enterprise program, that was really nice because it could just tell me, I don't know what 350 feet meant, kind of this way at 2 o'clock. I had an idea that if I headed this way. So I just use them for look-arounds. And I think with Soundscape, that's something that you might want to, say you're at a restaurant, you're going to leave, you can do the look-around and you can kind of figure out if it's on the right or left of the street for a reference, and then put it away in a sense. I actually like Google Maps.
Oh, interesting.
It just works. It's the new Apple.
It's a new Apple.
And we are recording this before Mario comes to Google Maps, which to me sounds like some new augmented reality thing that's actually popping and won't be accessible. And there's another great app called MoveIt. If you're ever looking for public transit directions, it is fully accessible. And a lot of these, I think, are integrated with you. They're starting to integrate with each other. I know Blind Square, isn't it integrated a little with Be My Eyes now? Was that the one that MoveIt is integrated, MoveIt is integrated with Be My Eyes, where I guess if you call somebody on Be My Eyes, they can access MoveIt and your location and everything. But if you're ever just looking for point A to point B directions, MoveIt works fantastically, and I just love that app, and I love the fact that, you know, it seems to be the one mainstream transportation app that gets accessibility. Of course, watch now, they'll release a new version before this comes out where they break everything and people will be screaming at me.
I used to have a bunch of apps when I took BART. One of them they don't make anymore, but it was great because I worked literally right above one of the BART stations. I could find out if there was a train in 3 minutes. I knew I could hotfoot it downstairs and get there in time for the train. It was fantastic. Fantastic.
With MoveIt app, it's really nice because you can have it in your pocket, and if you're wearing Bluetooth headphones, it'll tell you when your stop is coming, like next stop or you've arrived. So there are neat settings. Plus they have walking, like if you walk in the distance. I took mine out and it said to the right, 950 feet. Now it did not tell me there was an intersection, but I mean, you can figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
As I went along, I held it in my hand because it was a nice day, but it counted down, 250 feet. Then it got down, and then ding, you've arrived. So it is kind of a reference thing. I thought it was pretty cool.
That is pretty neat.
When Jeff said Bluetooth speakers, I was picturing him with Bluetooth speakers taped to his head, kind of like a jam button.
Strapped to his head.
What was it?
Sonos 1 and Sonos 2. Soundscape your life. The whole community will know what's going on.
Yeah, you're coming. Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's that annoying blind guy again with his voiceover.
Heading north.
Oh,
Nearest road, 69th way northeast is 30 yards
Turn
away.
it up.
69th way bus stop is 75 yards away.
If there's anything I hate more than anything, it's crappy Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Anything?
Yes.
Is there anything worse when you go to an airport and your phone automatically connects to the Wi-Fi and you go to load your mail and you're sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for your mail to load and
what's going on? Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. I could turn Wi-Fi off and connect in 2 seconds on my cellular provider.
Yep.
So I thought this was an interesting article where, have you ever, Allison, used this Wi-Fi assist that's built into the iPhone?
I had used it when it first came out, and then it seemed like it was activating when I didn't need it to, so I've never used it since.
You sure it wasn't the Wi-Fi anti-assist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Wi-Fi unassist.
Unassist. Yeah, well, I don't get these places that say, oh, we offer free Wi-Fi, and then you go to connect to it, and it's worse than being connected to a 28.8 baud modem.
Yeah, or what they mean is we offer free Wi-Fi for 30 minutes, and then you either have to get another code or you have to pay.
Ugh.
And I don't usually use that because unless you're using a VPN, people can hack into what you're doing on a public Wi-Fi network. So I just tend to use I either tether, if I'm using a computer, I just tether with my mobile hotspot, which I have secured with a password, or I just use the 4G LTE on my phone.
Well, I just figure what gets hacked in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
That's right.
Jeff, were you the one that told me you do all your private banking when connected to a Starbucks Wi-Fi network?
I try to. That or Caribou Coffee, one or the other.
Yeah, or McDonald's.
Yeah, just a word of the wise. Never do any personal banking or investing or anything that is private on a public Wi-Fi network and everything.
Yeah, because it won't be private for too long.
No.
You'll lose all your money.
Hotels are famous for it. I was in England and they had Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. I was excited. In the lobby.
Oh.
You go down there and there's like 40 people in line.
You want free Wi-Fi then.
It's like those hotels when you used to have the free computer. Oh, let me log into all my personal stuff in the lobby on it.
On the public computer. I saw somebody do that recently, and I'm like, what could be that important or not important, as it were?
I saw this TV show. I forget what it was. It was some tech show. I think it was the CSA Cyber that lasted about 6 episodes. But they did have one cool episode where they had like one of those strip bars where you could charge your phone at an airport. And basically some guy tapped into that and stole everybody's personal information. So,
oh, that's totally doable. Yeah. It could happen today.
I never use... It just sounds dirty using a public charging port.
Yeah. Sounds like you have to get your phone tested afterward.
Exactly. For viruses. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have any special friends? Because this next story is pretty cool. Like, for Jeremy Allison, you know that you could create a special ringtone for him with the iPhone? Vibration pattern.
Oh, well, yeah, I knew about the custom, but I mean, he has his own ringtone. But I forgot about the custom vibration patterns.
Yeah, this is pretty cool because, for somebody like me that gets 7,000 notifications and everything, and when I'm out in public, I have my phone in my pocket. I just always, because all the vibration patterns are the same, I just always assume everything is a notification that Trump did something stupid. And now you could actually, and I think you've been able to do this for a while, you could create custom vibration patterns for different people and everything, which I think would be really cool if you could do it for different kinds of notifications and everything. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be nice.
If you know the Morse code, you could probably do their initials.
Probably. That would be so nerdy. I would love it.
Yeah, there is a SOS one in there. So I went in and tested it out, and I did one for Lori, and I just did. They have a screen on there. You touch the screen, it goes, bzz, then you lift your finger, it stops, then you touch real quick, so you can go boop, 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 boop. You know.
Wow.
That was the ACD song right there.
Oh, okay. I speak Apache, so can I do something with that and the vibration patterns?
Whatever gets you off, Brian.
Hey, they helped us win World War II. If you have never seen the movie Wind Talkers, check it out. Great film.
Oh, so good.
Actually.
So good. Yeah.
So good. An actual good Nicolas Cage film. It's rare, but there are a few out there.
There are some.
So there's a little bit of a big conference coming up shortly. Allison, I guess you won't be there this year, but you were at CSUN last year.
I was at CSUN last year. It was great, but my work is... I would never call my work cheap, but they won't send me 2 years in a row, so you do the math.
Well, I thought this was pretty cool because, none of us, unfortunately, are going. I do have a friend that's going out there, so we might get some information from him. And if you do go out there and you find something interesting that we're not talking about, let us know through Twitter or an email or Twitter or an email. I thought it was really cool because it looks like the first session that I saw that kicked everything off was called iOS versus Android SmackDown.
Ooh, I love it. I love those. Yeah.
And my question is this going to be an Apple employee versus a Google employee just boxing? Or
That would be fun.
I can't imagine iOS would lose this one.
I can't imagine. Well, you know what? Android is getting better.
That's what people have been saying for years.
My feeling is, though, until they implement Magic Tap, I think it should be iOS versus Samsung Android, because that's the one to beat nowadays.
That's true.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a boxing match between Joe Steinkamp and Randy Rusnak.
Oh, that'd be great.
I would pay to go to that. I'm not paying to go to CSUN, but if we could set that up, Joe versus Randy.
Oh, I would totally pay.
The big R.
Big R.
Something tells me it wouldn't go more than one round.
It's really interesting. I just saw this topic. Someone was talking about that they were going to switch over to Android from iOS, and about 3 other people came in and said they've tried it. I just got out of that conversation. I just walked away like, I don't want to go there.
Most people are going to be happy with the environment they live in mostly and everything. And I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you still can't just left and right flick on Android, right?
You can. It works most of the time.
Yeah. Well, sometimes sometimes I'm flicking on iOS because I use my phone with one hand. And sometimes I'm flicking and I'll be flicking from one thing to the next and all of a sudden I'm in the status bar.
Yeah, because that's the thing. iOS can no longer lord its superiority so much over Android because there's so many stupid things that it does in terms of accessibility that we have to, we've been taken down a peg or two.
Do you still have to hop on one foot to use an Android phone?
No, they've actually had some updates where it's pretty much almost similar gestures now, and you can do a lot of 3-finger, 4-finger stuff like that. I don't know about the 4-finger, but you can do a lot of the gestures. I have a 7 that I fired up to fire. Every once in a while I fire it up, and you know what? I am staying on it longer, until I forget to go back to it.
Well, that's of course Fire OS, which is a variant of Android. That's the thing. There are so many forks and forks in the road. I like the Samsung variant myself.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
A lot. It has Magic Tap, which is important to me.
What Samsung device are you using?
I've got a Galaxy S8 that I keep forgetting to charge, but when I remember to charge it, I've liked learning about
So
about
you're
Android
learning
through
to
Samsung.
navigate the galaxy.
That's right.
Now, are there things that you can do on it that don't properly work on iOS?
I would say no. There's nothing that I can't do on one that I could do on another. I would say though that with the advent of the voice assist Samsung screen reader, it truly makes Android and iOS neck and neck in terms of features, in terms of really being a valid choice for somebody who's blind. Yeah.
We could go on for hours talking about Android versus iOS, but if you're at the conference and you see the SmackDown, let us know how it turned out, or maybe we'll be able to hear on That Blind Tech Show, be able to make the dream match of Joe versus Randy.
Right. Be like a pay-per-view.
There we go.
Exactly. So, Jeff, another big thing that I saw, a big topic for the conference, is the direction of inclusive design and accessibility. Those are some big words for me, but I assume you might be able to tell us, where do you think things are headed in 2018?
To the moon. I mean, I just am glad, some of these conferences have people speaking on different areas and they're doing thesis and all this other studies and stuff. More power to them, because, all the stuff that comes out of that, trickles down through the education system. It gives scholars and all sorts of people information. So they're doing a lot of work, and where it's headed for me, it's hard to predict anymore. It really is.
That's very true, because tomorrow somebody's going to shock us and come out with something with accessibility like Microsoft did last year with Seeing AI. And who knows what company might develop something next that's new and great and everything. What are any thoughts on this, Allison? I know it's a broad topic.
I agree with that. I think that, the reason I love technology so much is because you can go to bed one night with your world one way and then wake up, and because a developer has written bunches of lines of code and made something amazing, the whole world can change, or a whole corner of the world can open up to you that wasn't before.
It started with curb cuts.
Yep. From curb cuts to Seeing AI,
It was funny. I was looking at the sessions, CSUN and everything, and I'm like, oh, I'd like to go to that. I'd like to go to that. I'd like to go to that. Facebook, JAWS, Microsoft, I'd like to go to that. And then I noticed everything was the same time at 10 a.m. I'm sure they probably replayed them and everything. But Jeff, are there any companies that you'd like to hear anything out of, particularly at CSUN this year?
This may be surprising, but Intuit, a company that works on a lot of financial software, does QuickBooks. And the QuickBooks app for the iPad is totally accessible. And that's been one of their striving initiatives that they've been doing. I met a gentleman that was talking about it, and he's intersected along with a lot of other companies throughout his career, and he's landed here, and he's really all about software. So it's really neat to see Intuit, a company that you may not expect to be there, but they're there. They're making a presence. They're making a difference. I like that about certain companies. And that's just one of the, you may not have thought I'd say Intuit, but there you go.
And thank you for reminding me that I have to do my taxes, because Intuit also makes TurboTax, which I don't know if it's fully accessible, but the fact that, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to OCR the forms and everything, and I'm getting somebody to come over to help me with that. How about yourself, Allison? Any companies, Amazon, anybody you'd like to hear anything out of, particularly at CSUN this year?
Well, since we lost Baum, and I said goodbye to my Vario Ultra as a result, I sold it. I am in the market for a new Braille display, so I am really, really eager to hear of any new announcements regarding Braille displays that might come out of CSUN. Preferably cheaper Braille displays, but not loud ones, please.
And, of course, I'd like to hear more about Described Video. It's the other day I actually looked at iTunes, and about a year ago, iTunes finally started releasing film titles with Described Video. Well, I looked, and I don't think they've added anything. So it was kind of like they half-assed it, where they're like, oh, we're going to release these 100 or so, 200 titles with Described Video. I don't get why, if these movies are on the DVDs are coming out with Described Video, why iTunes just doesn't automatically release it with that track. I don't understand why Amazon's still not releasing.
But wait a second. No, I follow the audio description project on Twitter, and they're constantly releasing new on iTunes with audio description, this or that. So they are, I don't know what you're searching for, but they're always releasing.
No, well, that's great to hear. I guess it's every title I've looked up they have not released with described video. So that's great to hear. I've been wrong once in my life, so now I've been wrong twice. No.
Yeah, wow. It's a momentous occasion.
We got recordings, Brian. We can figure this out.
Yeah.
You can prove my wrongness. No, well, that's great to hear, because I was looking up last weekend a lot of different titles, and nothing had audio description. I don't know if they're releasing kids' movies. And the ADP project, maybe that's where I should go, because that is something I do subscribe to. They do fantastic work as far as tracking everything from Netflix to Amazon. And I'd just like to hear more what's going on in that field, not that field, but in that area and everything. So
I believe the ACB project, you can actually go and look it up, because I caught wind that they just added a bunch more movies that are audio described to their list.
Okay.
Yeah, they have everything listed in alphabetical order. They have it for iTunes and Amazon and literally everything.
Allison, you're assuming I know the alphabet. Come on.
I'm not.
I know, that's quite an assumption.
We'll check that. We'll have to try and put that link in the show notes and everything to that. And I do look at their Netflix listing, from time to time and everything. I guess I've never looked at it for iTunes and everything. And
yeah, that would have saved you a lot of heartache if you had done it, Brian.
It would, and I got from a certain mousy mart The Darkest Hour with described video, which I saw in Gary Oldman.
Oh my God, I want to go get that right now.
Oh, he's fantastic. Gary Oldman is.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the movie was a little slow itself, but he is so good in that movie. He's one of my all-time favorite actors, and that was so great to see him win the Oscar.
Yeah.
The popular segment that makes a wicked return to this show, and it's known as What's Pissing Off Bryan Now, because there's been a lot pissing me off lately. It's been a while.
You've been saving it up.
Well, he's been dieting too, so.
I'm hungry.
You're hangry.
The new segment is What's Pissing Bryan Off and Making Him Hungry. And we're going to start with my keyboard to my Mac computer, because this thing's driving me insane. I've been using the Logitech K780 for the longest time, and I guess I used it so much that the O key decided to commit suicide on me.
Oh.
Where it's just stuck in the bottom of the keyboard. So I had to replace it, and I started off with a Kanzik, I believe it's KANSIK keyboard, because it talked about how it had all the Mac shortcut keys and everything. And when I got the keyboard here, all of a sudden, all my Apple voiceover shortcuts F1 to F12 would not work. The checkbox...
Even when you used the FN key?
Even when you use the FN key, and there was no checkbox under keyboard. It vanished, that checkbox that you have to check to use.
Ew.
And I even called Apple Accessibility. We spent a good hour and a half on the phone, and they're like, well, it's on my computer. Then I disconnected that keyboard, and that checkbox came back. So for some reason, that keyboard, it must have had hard built into the keyboard, the regular Mac, the brightness and everything. So
where's the touch bar when you need it?
Oh.
Need it. So instead of a Kanzik, it was a Kantzik.
Ding, ding. That was good.
Thank you.
Anyways, that got sent back to Amazon. So after the 3.5 weeks that it took Amazon to refund my money, which I don't know why it took them that long, I decided just to go with the good old Logitech K780 again. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing is, this one, all of a sudden, it keeps losing connectivity to the computer, where I'll be typing and it'll just stop typing, and then a few seconds later it'll start typing, and anything I typed while it's lost connectivity doesn't type.
Ew.
And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. I've never seen an issue like this. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've replaced the batteries in the keyboard. Yes, I've disconnected it from Bluetooth and reconnected it, and the same issues persist. So if anybody's ever seen this before, do let me know. I tried calling Apple Accessibility, but after 8 minutes on hold, I said, let me call them back later. So I've yet to do that. But I don't know if it's a High Sierra issue or what. Just not been very happy with my keyboard. And the last thing I'll ever do is use the keyboard that comes with the iMac, because that thing's atrocious.
I do have a big hunch of why you didn't get your money back from Amazon for 3 weeks, because he wanted to go over the $100 billion to be the first person to do that. So it hung on to it for just a little bit.
You could be onto something there. You very well could be onto something. And it wouldn't be a full show if there wasn't something else that was pissing me off. numbers on the Mac. Apple cannot get numbers correct. Now, I've spoken with some other people that are not having the issues with numbers that I've had, but under High Sierra, I'll tell you, I cannot type in the A column in numbers on any spreadsheet. I finally figured out a workaround where if I VO spacebar in there, I could start typing. But the behavior, it keeps changing. Sometimes I have to stop interacting to get out of a cell. Other times I just have to VO arrow, and therefore half the time I'm stop interacting with the sheet I'm working with. Why can't Apple get numbers right with VoiceOver?
I don't know. Apple needs to learn how to count.
That's true, but it just seems with their own software, they can't make it fully function with VoiceOver, which drives me insane.
Nope.
Speaking of numbers, today Bryan was trying out the follow-up on the Amazon device. Mm-hmm. He wanted to know a population of a certain state or country. We're doing this little thing. And then he said number 2. And Bryan, can you tell us what the response was, the number 2?
It said defecation, and then it gave us the definition.
Oh, God.
It was hysterical. Jeff could witness that it happened. And we could not get the A-lady to redo. I had asked, what's the biggest city in Australia, which I knew, Sydney. And then I said, what's number 2? And it said defecation, and it gave us the definition.
Oh, geez.
I just went, la, 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 la.
That was great. Just like Apple, we could not get the A-lady to repeat that behavior. But as Jeff is my witness, because I had him on speakerphone, and
oh, man.
If you're listening in Australia, please do let us know if defecation is your second biggest city.
And that email is thatblindtechshow@gmail.com.
Or Blind Tech Show on Twitter.
And we just lost David Woodbridge as a listener.
Yeah. He just said, "Good day, mate," and I went off in a huff.
Oh no, we kid Australia because we
love.
Yes. Yeah. So this was a fun one.
Yeah.
I guess the next time we'll be reporting CSUN, we'll have. Does anybody know the date of CSUN? Or since we're not going, we don't really care.
2 weeks away.
Less than that. It's 10. That's on the a week and a half on the 20th. It's late this year.
And next year it's
in Los Angeles. So I'm planning on going next year. So if you
cool.
can hold off waiting for me for a year, I will see you in Los Angeles, mate.
All right. Well, I'll wait for you, Bryan. We'll wait for you.
Yes.
You're worth waiting for.
Why, thank you. Australians no longer feel that way.
Nope.
And on that note, we are out.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes,
we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations
and the
realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind
abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.